Welcome. Thanks everybody for joining. We've got so many people today. We're worried we're going to break Zoom, but it seems to be working so far. So on this call, we know we have a lot of representatives from anti-hunger organizations. I know there's a lot of you on here who are seeing and experiencing the impacts of the shutdown. We also have local media joining us, and we have state and federal policymakers represented. I'm Anna Corson. I'm the Deputy Director of Full Plates, Full Potential. And my colleague, Colleen Frawley, is the Advocacy Manager with Full Plates and will be co-facilitating this meeting. So for today, our agenda is going to include sharing the latest information about how SNAP benefits are being withheld in November. We'll share what actions lawmakers must take to release these funds now, what needs to be done to ensure the future of the SNAP program in Maine after the shutdown has ended. And then we want to spend the bulk of our time together to have an open discussion. We really want to hear from all of you, what you're hearing and seeing in your communities and what questions you have. And then we'll end with some calls to action. So before we get started, just want to do a little level setting and housekeeping. So we're all really angry right now and scared, right? We feel that way. I know a lot of folks on this call are feeling that way. Anger is justified. It's an important motivator, and we understand the fear and upset at this moment. That being said, as the hosts, we're going to take responsibility to harness the fear and anger into constructive action as much as possible. So we're going to plan to correct any misinformation we hear. We're going to hold people to no more than 2 minutes when you're sharing. And we reserve the right to cut off any comments that involve personal attacks on anyone. We want this to be a safe space.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're also taking responsibility for collecting questions and sharing concerns with decision makers and officials who administer the SNAP program. So in order to do that, we need to make sure we understand questions and comments. So we might ask for clarification. This meeting is being recorded. And when we get to the discussion portion of our agenda, please use the raise hand function and keep your comments to as close to 2 minutes as you can. You can also put your questions and your comments into the chat. We also are collecting stories and questions. We have a story collection form. Someone's going to link that in the chat in just a minute here. We encourage you all to put to input your stories and things you're hearing and seeing into that as well. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, I'm going to pass it over to Colleen.
Okay, thank you, and apologies for the dinging. It's distracting me mercilessly, and I don't know how to stop it right now without possibly crashing the whole Zoom. So, sorry, you can't hear it. Oh, good. Okay, so if I'm distracted, that's what it is. All right, so I am Colleen Frawley, and I'm the advocacy manager with Full Plates, Full Potential. So we are going to start with just the latest information or updates about SNAP for November. I am just back from DC, where I was with Purple Street and Good Shepherd. And we also work with national organizations. And so there's a lot of moving parts, but here's what we know now. So USDA has refused to use the contingency money, which is available to fund SNAP. They've taken down their original shutdown plans, which were posted online and shared publicly, that allowed for the contingency money to be used. Right. The US government has never before not funded SNAP in any circumstance, including a shutdown. A group of Maine advocates, like I said, we're just in DC. And all 4 congressional offices certainly know the impact that this is going to have on Maine. And we're certainly, this was top of their agenda. And that's because of our collective advocacy here in Maine. While we were sitting waiting for our meeting with Senator Collins and asking her to fund SNAP and help with lobbying the USDA, the phone rang 6 or 7 times in a row with people from Maine expressing their support and their concern about the funding for the SNAP program in November. So thank you, and we have to keep it up. On the congressional side, there are two Senate bills currently to fund SNAP and WIC and reimburse states later if the shutdown continues. Currently, Senate
Oh, let's
Majority
go.
Leader Thune won't bring any funding bills to the floor for a vote until the shutdown is over. The House side isn't meeting at all because the Speaker won't convene the House until the shutdown is over. So reps are back home and in between DC. WIC has funds through the end of the month and doesn't of October tomorrow and doesn't have money to fully fund November. Head Start is also out of funding, and so infants and young children and their families are particularly at risk right now. We have heard that the state of Maine is making a plan, but we don't have further information to share right now on that. School meal reimbursements for meals served in October have been allocated to Maine DOE, but there is uncertainty about whether or not reimbursements for meals served in November will be made available if the shutdown continues. So, what action lawmakers have taken and must continue to take is the next item we said we would share. So, state and federal lawmakers, especially from Republicans who are in charge of USDA, need to be clear that SNAP and WIC need to be funded, and the administration has the money allocated by Congress to fund most of it for November, and they can take other surplus money to fund the rest if the shutdown continues. They must also demand that USDA communicate to states to provide clarity about reimbursement for WIC and school meal funding for November as soon as possible. Maine's Attorney General has joined a lawsuit against USDA looking for a temporary restraining order, along with about 25 or so states. It was heard in a Massachusetts federal court today, and we expect a finding from the judge soon. Here in Maine, Maine's executive branch and administration, Governor Mills announced yesterday that we're going to allocate $650,000 in funding to Good Shepherd Food Bank to disperse, $600,000 to the Agency on Aging to disperse as well, and an additional $10,000 to the Hunters for Hungry program. So far, the Democratic House and Senate caucus here in Maine have sent a letter to USDA urging them to send the allocated contingency funding to the states, and of course, emphasized how critical $29 million in food assistance is here. Some Maine state senators and representatives have called for the governor to convene a special session of the legislature to deal with this crisis. Anna.
Thanks, Colleen. Okay, so we also want to think about what needs to be done to ensure the future of SNAP in Maine after the shutdown has ended. We're in a crisis moment. We know the urgency around November SNAP has brought this issue into the public's awareness. And we all know how important SNAP is, and that the budget reconciliation bill is going to make funding SNAP an ongoing problem for the state of Maine. So immediate changes to SNAP that are already in effect or about to happen include increased work reporting requirements, restrictions to non-citizens, and then the state is also planning ahead for the cost shift to the state of administering and paying for SNAP benefits. We do have a one-pager on our website that outlines some of these immediate changes that just happened. If that's helpful for any of you, please share it widely. We are a SNAP outreach contractor with the state, and we know that many of you on this call provide support to people through SNAP outreach and application assistance. We also know that this is going to be even more important moving forward. It'll help to keep the state's error rate down, which should help to lower Maine's costs when this cost shift does happen. We want to hear your thoughts and questions about how we can protect SNAP moving forward, and how we can make it as easy as possible for SNAP recipients to apply, maintain their benefits, and comply with these expanded work reporting requirements. So we will collect those questions and comments and bring them to the state agency or bring them to lawmakers, and we will report back with the answers that we get. The best way to get information from us is through our Ending Hunger newsletter. If you're not already subscribed, the link to subscribe is going to be in the chat, and then we'll also link to our SNAP outreach page as well. Okay, that was a lot. We're now going to move into the discussion section. So we welcome folks to please raise your hands, share what you're hearing and seeing in your communities, share the questions that you have. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded, but we hope everyone feels comfortable to share as much as they can. So I'm gonna call on
If
folks.
Kelly is
Yeah.
here from Piscataquis, she has some people reached out in advance with like scheduling issues, and we're trying to accommodate that. And she, are you here, Kelly? Because she, if you could, would like to come off mute. Great. So
All
we are
right, Kelly, the
starting with
floor is yours.
you.
Okay. Lucky me. So probably no different than any other community. The people we're serving and our community members are panicking. We have registered 50 new households in a week and a half. So we previously had been serving approximately 350 households each month, and now it'll be 400 in under a week. Actually, just a week, right? Has it only been a week since this happened? So it's a lot. We are in a good place to scale our resources up. We are doing okay. We've had an outpouring of support from our community, but the challenge that we're having is that people are really panicking, very desperate. All of the communications that they're seeing are really painting a negative picture and a scary picture. And trying to save someone that's drowning, they pull you down with them. It's the same kind of thing happening. We're all picking up on this energy. So we're trying to remain calm and just scale. I do have a question, because I may not be able to ask it sooner or later. If those funds were released by USDA today or tomorrow, how long would it take them to funnel into the EBT cards? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I can answer that from what we've heard from the state. So if the USDA releases the funds today, up until November 2nd, that because benefits are scheduled here in Maine, OFI will work as fast as possible to load those on for November. After November 2nd, we're probably, it seems like we would be looking at a delay, but there's certainly wanting to do as much, whatever they can as fast as possible. And that's what they've said so far.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. And thanks for the work you do, and appreciate you sharing that.
For some reason, someone's saying they can't raise their hand, but I see Colleen's hand raised. Or we only put in the chat if you're having trouble raising your hand. But yeah, Colleen, go ahead.
Hi, just first, great to be here with all of you and what feels like, somewhat unprecedented times, and another layer on just what has been really hard on the food system coming out from this administration since this spring, and really since the beginning of the year. A couple of questions to ask. I know that the state of Maine can't support SNAP in the long term, but are there moves we can be taking to demand that the $29 million be waiting in the wings while also advancing the recommended policy action for contingency funds at the federal level from the USDA is one question. And then I know that some state representatives have called for a special session with mills. I was very encouraged to see the $1.25 million earmarked for Good Shepherd. Of course, they're a critical backbone to our food distribution and hunger relief network. Could the potential of a special session be an opportunity to really advance the long-term shifting the needle on food insecurity by advancing different parts of our food system, like the Harvest Box program, like Farm to Neighbor Maine, like those that are posed and ready on the ground to get the food out with the money, and also be purchasing that at fair market value from farmers. Can we start talking about that? So not just like putting the commodity food on the shelves and getting it out the door, but how we can be advancing advocacy at the state level and at the federal level to be looking at a double down investment of our dollars, whether that's bolstering full plates for what's about to be coming down the pipeline for school meals, keeping an eye towards Head Start around the corner, and SNAP and WIC immediately in front of us. I'm curious to hear.
Yeah. Colleen, your sound was garbled, but I think I got the question. It's about, and if there are state lawmakers here and would like to answer, because it's directed at them, right? You were asking about the potential for a special session and looking at the economic impact, right? I mean, if we're shifting that much money to charitable food, then people aren't getting paid fair market value to sell their food. Can anyone see? I mean, if there is a state representative here that would like to answer, you can just come off mute and answer. Otherwise, oh,
I can just speak. This is
yay. Okay.
Senator Ingerson. I know there's been a request, at least one, for a special session, but that's all. I think there's a request in. Nothing else on that. And then you did ask, Colleen, I think you were asking about legislation. There is some legislation. Some of it's sitting on the appropriations table around harvest bucks, and that's one of my bills. And there's also a bill that got passed through emergency that changes the language in the harvest bucks, not harvest bucks, but the Food Insecurity Fund, to allow for other options besides just drawing down federal matching funds, which is pretty timely, I would say, in these days. That's all I know about, except for Mainers Feeding Mainers, which you probably, Good Shepherd knows about. That's Annie Graham's bill. I think that's either in appropriations or on the governor's desk. I don't know which. Maybe someone else could answer that. That changes the ongoing funding from $1 million to $2 million for Mainers Feeding Mainers.
Yeah, thank you. This is Senator Talbot Ross. It's great to be on the call with everyone. I don't know a whole lot more than what Senator Ingerson just mentioned, except I think Representative Graham's bill is on the appropriations table. I know that Representative Pluker is on this Zoom, and he and I chair Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. We're hoping to agree on a letter to leadership asking for a special session within the next day or so. And so I think the calls for a special session, Colleen, are going to get louder and louder. But I'm also meeting with the city of Portland soon. I know that the Mayor's Coalition is meeting tomorrow in Biddeford just to talk about SNAP. I know Mayor Dion from my home city of Portland will be there, and I'm looking to get updated from the mayor early next week to see how we can keep pushing for to move forward. And I don't know if Representative Pluker wants to add anything. The only thing I do know is Representative Pluker got a bill through Ledge Council just last week, I think, that is a concept draft that we will use to address SNAP and some of these gaps, if Representative Pluker can talk about it. But thank you for the opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, I'll just say real quickly that bill, I'm working with Full Plates, Full Potential to make sure that everybody who's legally could legally access SNAP will continue to be able to legally access SNAP in the future, despite federal changes to the program. And then another bill trying to continue the survey of food insecurity in Maine, even though they changed the program federally so that it no longer is happening.
Thank you, Bill. And Henry and Senator Talbot Ross. We are going to take Heather Arvidsson from Midcoast Hunger Prevention, and then we have a couple other people. I also know that Representative Shelley Pingree is in here, so if we have a specific question about USDA or the federal level, we could take that too, but we'll take you first, Heather, and then do our best, okay?
Hi, Heather Arvidsson from Midcoast Hunger in Brunswick. I have two questions. We're a food pantry for reference for anybody who doesn't know. Does anyone know if there is an effort to get some of these state contingency funds directly to SNAP participants? As a food pantry, we're very, very concerned about the burden this is about to place on our work that's already seen 125% increase in service usage in the last 2 years. And I just really want to say that I don't think this is a problem food banks and food pantries can solve. And so I'm just really worried about what this is going to do to our ability to do this work. So I would love to hear if anybody knows about that. And then the second bit is a question, hopefully, for anyone from Good Shepherd that's on this call, and what the plan is for the funding that you received through Governor Mills, and how that will plan to trickle down to the food pantry network that's doing this work. I'm going to put in a plug that I think it would be incredibly helpful if in the month of November, all food from Good Shepherd was free. That could be a way to use that money and really support the food banks doing this work. So thank you.
Okay. Does anyone from Good Shepherd want to answer, take over, or be in the chat? Or
I'm happy to. Hi,
Thanks,
everyone. This is Amy. Sure, of course. Thanks for the opportunity. This is Amy Sacy. I do government affairs for Good Shepherd Food Bank, and we know that our partners are eager to hear our plans. We are working on it. We learned we were receiving these funds late yesterday afternoon. We're mobilizing as quickly as possible to support our network partners. I promise we'll have more information to share in the coming days.
Thank you. Heather, your first question about money going directly to SNAP recipients, we don't know what solutions are being kicked around by the state, and we think that a special session would be a great way to hear and for like a bipartisan approach to publicly discussing those solutions with such a large allocation of money. We know it's happening in other states, and we will pass on the question after this. Okay, Scott Carter, and then I suspect Shelley Pingree will have answers to what you're going to say about ask about USDA.
Thanks so much, Colleen. I appreciate it. Scott Carter, former Chief Government Affairs, USDA FNS. I would just want to talk about the future a little bit. Three major concerns I have, and they were reiterated at.
Okay, just you're like blurred out. I don't know why.
I don't know why I'm blurted out either.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
I apologize. I wish I could come back on. Yeah, I even trimmed my beard up nicely. Gee whiz, sorry. So thanks. Yeah, but so thanks, Colleen. But three things I'm concerned about with my knowledge is the increased admin costs that the state is going to have to incur. Now 75%. The QC error rate needing to be at 6% is going to be extremely difficult. I think 4 states, maybe 5, are doing it now. It takes so much more than folks really realize. And then another issue, USDA is asking for comments on the SNAP stocking rule for retailers. They're calling for increase in the inventory. If many of you recall, that was attempted back in 2016, 19, and other time periods back then. It was not implemented. Big concern is that our small rural retailers that we depend on in Maine specifically are going to drop out of the SNAP program. And then the increased cost to the QC and admin. I'm very concerned that how SNAP's going to operate and be available to folks. I want to throw my agreement behind colleagues' comments about being flexible, creative at the state level, looking at farmers and other folks who haven't been at the table so much in the food system, and they should be. I think that's important, and I would absolutely call for a special session to begin to identify, the issues. The state testified, as I mentioned the other day, a week or so and a half ago, with the appropriations and HHS committee. The state's going to have to find an additional $50 million just for SNAP. That's not talking about the Medicaid and the other challenges and discussions. So I'm very concerned about the, you know, the ABOD requirements, the age requirements to 64, that veterans are no longer getting ABOD exemptions and homeless. Very concerned about a lot of those, but I'm extremely concerned about the future and the ability of the state. And what that'll happen is, as Heather mentioned, the pressure on the, you know, the food pantries and other organizations is just going to be absolutely tremendous. And so I'll be quiet. I thank the Congresswoman for being here. I'm looking forward to her comments. By the way, yes, USDA does have the reserves. They get 3 million every single year, can carry it over for 3 straight years. So they do have it. It's their call to spend it. We've done it in the past, so they can do it again. Thanks so much, Colleen. Appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Representative Pingree, are you still here?
Can you actually hear me?
We can and see you.
Okay, great. All right. Well, sorry, I'm in transit, so I apologize for that. But I've been able to hear a little bit of what you guys have been talking about. First, thank you for mobilizing so quickly, and my sincere apologies that the federal government and this administration has decided not to use the contingency fund at this point. So we've been focusing most of our efforts on pushing back on that and letting them know that we believe it's illegal for them to allow this $5 to $6 billion to sit there. And we also believe there's easily ways for them to move around the money. They had a memo, a couple of memos actually over the course of this year showing why they could do it, and just recently took it off of their website. So of course, this is a political fight in Washington. It shouldn't be this way. We never have stopped SNAP benefits before during a government shutdown. So it's all a travesty. And our goal has been just to push back and to get them to do the right thing, not to use politics to starve people. Of course, there is a lawsuit. I don't think the ruling is out yet, but it's going on right now, as you know. So we're certainly hoping that the courts will stay this, and at least the 25 states, including Maine, will get those benefits. We're worried that for states who choose to try to find a way to, supplement the program, or as you're all talking about here, go into special session and use emergency funds that the federal government won't reimburse. I think that would trigger another lawsuit because, again, we believe what they're doing is illegal. They shouldn't be withholding those funds. So I don't know that I can answer many more specific questions. Some of the things that I know we've learned from the attorney generals and what's going on in the lawsuit, just that if these funds were reinstated, there would be, as rapid a turnaround as possible. And we're hoping that pressure continues and that they feel, responsible to actually spend the money that is already there. So I'm not sure I can weigh in much more, except that I deeply appreciate that everybody is mobilizing as fast as they can. I've been trying to remind people that as critical as our food banks are, and you're all going to be on the front lines, SNAP is just a vital source of money, and it's close to 10 to 1 what goes out through SNAP benefits compared to what food banks are able to do. And I know we're going to mobilize, get more money. I see the governor's already adding some assistance, but still the magnitude of this need is just really catastrophic. And we're just telling people, they're going to suffer huge hardships. So I hope we can, get this changed in Washington um, before too long. And certainly I hope that the lawsuit goes our way because we believe it's illegal. So I'm going to sign off there. I'll try to stay on for a while in case there are any other questions, but I know my team is on here too. So we can always try to get you any information as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Do we have someone from Somali Bantu? I think I got an email that they perhaps had a question or a comment about the impact of this on the immigrant community in Maine. No. Okay. And anyone else? I don't see any hands raised, but I could be wrong. Oh, Sandy Sweat from Harrison Food Bank. Do you want to ask a question or speak about SNAP? No. Okay. Nalita has her hand raised. Take it away.
Yes. Hi, this is Nelly Daber from the City of Portland, the Health Equity Program. I'm thinking about those um, SNAP recipients who are losing their benefits due to their immigration status. Wondering if there is a plan for them. One conversation that we have this afternoon, the Southern Maine Agency was thinking about like working with the churches, right, directly, because that is a safe place for most immigrants. That maybe if there is a plan from the state, they should be coordinating with faith leaders and community-based organizations. But faith leaders are well trusted in the community, so just to identify those. Who lost their benefits due to their immigration status, and they cannot go, they because they're afraid, they are unable, or they don't want to go to the regular food pantries. So that's my main concern that I have. Thank you.
Thanks. And I see, is there anyone from DHHS or OFI that would like to answer the question? I know in terms of November, we don't have any information, but for going forward, you can hop on. And if not, Alex, would you like to take it away after a beat?
Just want to be respectful to see if anyone from the administration is actually here with more up-to-date information. Not hearing any, but please interrupt me. Is this person?
No.
Oh, okay, I
Go
see
ahead.
media. Okay, I will try to address the question, Nadia. Nice to hear from you. I share many of those concerns. We are following changes from HR1 from the budget reconciliation very closely. The last I spoke to the Office of Family Independence, those changes specific to non-citizens, which are a group of people lawfully present, immigrants with humanitarian protection, so refugees, asylees, people with survivors of trafficking and domestic violence who are losing federal eligibility under the budget reconciliation. Those changes have not gone into effect in Maine yet. So if you are hearing about, for example, a refugee who has been denied SNAP benefits in Maine, we at Maine Equal Justice would love to hear about that. But just so that word is out in the community, those changes are not in effect yet. The state is still waiting for federal guidance to clarify how to implement those changes based on our own state laws. And as they do for all the changes, they'll have to do rulemaking and put out notices. So we can reach back out to you, Nelia, when those do go into effect and let you know our approach to sharing those updates in community. But share the concerns, not in effect yet. And we also have a state-funded SNAP program, unlike some other states. And so we are hoping that some people may be able to be captured by that more limited benefit.
And we'll take down the question about urgent needs and the suggestion to perhaps distribute funds through faith leaders. That's come up nationally, being as that, you know, there's a lot of fear and concern in certain communities about accessing resources. So appreciate that. Oh, okay. So Sean is an employee of OFI and can't speak for the department right now, but he can confirm that Alex is speaking facts. Thank you, Alex. We need some facts. Okay, so we have someone from the media who would like to ask a question, but before we do that, I just wanted to see if Jasmine from Healthy Acadia wanted to ask something or share your experience from Washington County being as one of the highest rates of SNAP participants.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I got to spend a lot of time on last week going to the pantries in the northern part of the county, and my counterpart Lucy went to the southern part, and we got to bring the checks from our Turkey-a-thon, which is an annual fundraiser we do here in Washington County. That was a huge, huge success, but it was a little bittersweet because these funds are needed for such other emergency situation that is kind of not the norm, right? So we spent a lot of time talking. There's a lot of really creative minds that run our local pantries, thinking of fundraiser ideas and community members that they know, but they're tired. They're working overtime, even if they're just volunteers. They're feeling frazzled, and some of the pantry managers are SNAP recipients themselves. And it's a really, scary reality. And then there's a lot of questions that come to them that they don't have answers to. One question that came up that we were trying to hash out was if someone had applied for SNAP and got approved but haven't gotten funds from September and October yet, where are they in the system? And what advice can we give them? That was one question. Another question was, with the heating season around the corner in this very cold part of the state, that's this other big concern. Transportation's another big concern. As the winter approaches, we're going to be leaving a lot of people on snowy roads and having to make these decisions. So these are just some of the things that were mentioned, but it was also a lot of wonderful conversations about this community really stepping up. So it was the contrast of the two, right? Like, I think the pantry owners that I spoke to and the folks that I've spoke to in the last week have been overwhelmed by the folks reaching out, asking how they can help. So there's two parts here, right? There's this really heartwarming, wonderful community that we have, and then there's these big, scary question marks.
Thank you, Jasmine. The question, and Sean, from OFI, I don't know if you want to answer the particular, or even can answer the question about people who have applied but not yet received benefits. A lot of this stuff, they're having trouble getting answers on themselves. But you raised a point that's also in the chat from Piscataquis County, the combination of healthcare, right? Maine care changes, LIHEAP, and food assistance is a terrible trifecta. Okay, I don't see or hear an answer coming, Jasmine, so we will ask that after this, and I'll be in our follow-up. Isha, you still here?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, I just wanted to ask some more details about the special session. I know nothing is confirmed, and there was just a request put in, but so many advocates and lawmakers have been calling for it. I just wanted to understand if the special session is convened, would the plan be to put together an emergency bill for more funding using the rainy day fund, or are there other alternatives such as some of those bills that we mentioned? Just looking for any guidance that you can provide on what would be the best use of the special session if it were to be convened.
Do any of our senators want to weigh in on the potential of what the legislature can do?
Well, this is Senator Talbot Ross. I think that it's all up in the air. I would not at all begin to speak for the leadership in the House and the Senate or the governor's office. I think it's to be determined, but I would guess everything would be on the table. I see Senator Rafferty's here, Representative Pluker's here. I don't know if Senator Ingramson is still here, but we've not gotten any direction, so we shouldn't even give the impression that we have. I just think that there are several of us who are committed to calling for a special session. And as chairs of ACF, I think it's an obligation that we do. So
Thank you for that, Senator Ross. And Senator Rafferty chimed in that he agrees in the chat. And from the advocate's perspective, same thing, right? We're not the legislator, we're not elected, we don't know what can happen, but this is our, this is our citizen legislator and this is our Congress. So this is who we would like to see, debate and come up with a solution. All right. Alex Carter.
I was just noting that Jen Richardson has a statement and a question that I'd love for her to have a moment to lift up if there is time. And then
you're okay.
I can just share that Maine Equal Justice joined Full Plates and other advocates to call for a special session, not because, to be clear, not because we think that the state is at fault for the situation that we are in, but we have arrived at a potential crisis. And so it's our position that we should use all tools available. And in a state like Maine, it's not as straightforward to access the rainy day fund as it is in some other states. So I know that that is a frustration that we're hearing about as well, that why can't, if this state is doing this and that state is doing that. So I just want to be careful to not insinuate that we have the same flexibilities and options as all states, but we do feel like in a moment of crisis, we need to come together to take care of our own. And it's one of the few options we have as a state is to call the legislature back into session and to make a commitment to keep people fed. And so as Colleen and others have pointed out, to the best of my knowledge, there is no plan in place yet for that. And we would not pretend to know the administration or the legislature's position on that plan. But from an advocacy point of view, some of us would like to see that step taken as a contingency should the federal government not do what they are responsible.
I'm going to cut you off, Alex, and let Jennifer speak so that we can finish on time. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Richardson. I am on the board for Maine Equal Justice. I'm also on a food pantry board here in Lisbon, and I am a teacher at Lewiston High School. I see a lot of challenges already coming in the school. I have snacks in my classroom for my students, but they're worrying about things they shouldn't have to worry about. My son, who is disabled, has my 9-year-old autistic granddaughter who does not eat but maybe 7 items that food pantries do not offer. So I am trying to fill that void. So I'm sure a lot of families are going to hopefully be able to have their extended families help them. But that's not always the case. And I guess the question that I have is, how are this going to affect us with the schools? I've seen some stuff on the news. But I already see it trickling down at the high school level. And I'm trying to do what I can, a small part. But how are we going to be able to deal with that? So I guess that was my other question. Sorry.
That's a great question. Thank you, Jennifer. Anna, do you want to take that so you can, and then, I mean, as much as you can, and then we can head to the calls for action?
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that, Jennifer. And that is a really good and important question. And we've been asking that question too. We're worried about, if the shutdown continues, how that will impact school meal funding and potentially other school funding. For now, what we know is that schools are receiving their school meal reimbursements as planned. So the state did just receive full reimbursement for all meals served last month, which is the way this always happens. It's always a month later. But there is no certainty or guarantee that if this shutdown continues into next month, that they're going to receive their meal reimbursements. So the state's just not hearing any certainty from USDA, and we need to hear that certainty. We're also very conscious of the fact that school meals, school breakfast and lunch, are going to be, I keep saying certainty, but they're going to be the only certainty for a lot of these kids. And that's going to be, you know, an even more important piece right now. But we also know that schools are being asked to do a lot. So one thing that we think people who are asking how to help could help is to make sure that there are well-stocked snack pantries and cupboards in schools. The kids are just going to be hungry. We know that they're going to be getting less outside of school. So we're keeping in close contact with the Department of Education and with all of our school partners. And Jen, if you're hearing anything in Lewiston, will you please just let us know, and we'll help with in any way we can and get the word out, but we're definitely concerned too.
Thank you. And I missed someone, Anna. So we're going to pivot to Kim from Ending Hunger Corps, who wants to share about the food resource map, which is a good transition into kind of next steps and what we can do. You still here, Kim?
I am. Thank you. I'm Kim Lengert, the director of Ending Hunger Corps. It's a program within the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. And our program was formed within Everyone at the Table, Maine's Roadmap to End Hunger by 2030. So our task is to build the capacity to help food security programs do what they do best. I'm here to share with you our newest project, Maine's Food Access Map, which is being built through collaboration between Ending Hunger Corps and food security organizations throughout the state. The Food Access Map gathers all food security resources in one single place. Campus pantries, community gardens, community meals, food pantries, student summer meal programs, any program that does not charge or is by donation to receive food are all listed and searchable by location or type, with days and hours of operation and any requirements for access. So I know there's a lot of maps out there. What makes this map different is that it is not a specific resource that it's focusing on, but various types of programs with a statewide breadth of locations included. It's sourced not from any single program. It's been a collaborative project. Many of your programs have contributed different lists that we compiled into one big project. Programs will be able to embed the link in your websites, and the updating of the map, which is always a struggle for any resource, will be done via email. The map will have its own email. People can email updates. They'll be reviewed. And once accepted, the maps will automatically update. So everyone will always be seeing the most current version. Prior to any decision to release this, we're going to be holding sessions next week about the food access map, where you'll be able to view samples of the map and offer feedback, including any concerns you may have about being included, to improve the project so it really is a beneficial resource for everyone. So
Thank you so much.
Looks forward to continuing collaboration with all of you to create a hunger-free Maine. And any questions, just let me know. There'll be some emails in the chat for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
That is useful. And I just, before Anna finishes, I did just, and we will follow up with stuff that's in the chat that I've missed, but Colleen, the other Colleen, put a letter from Senator Craig Hickman that he wrote to Governor Mills and Madam President and Mr. Speaker requesting a special session. And she has asked, can all reps please submit letters to the governor requesting the same? She has shared the letter with permission from Senator Hickman. So we can put that in the follow-up. Anna, I will let you close us out. And I think
Great.
Everyone's asked what they need.
Yeah, are there any other questions? Anything anybody wants to share before we finish up? Okay, we really appreciate everybody's sharing and questions and folks who are able to answer questions. And we will bring all of this to folks who can answer questions, and we're just going to lift all of this up. So we really appreciate it. We want to end with some calls to action. So we are going to continue to put pressure on the USDA and on Congress, because this is their responsibility. They need to release the SNAP contingency funds. So the first call to action is to contact USDA Secretary Rollins. We're going to put her phone number and her email in the chat. Please reach out to her, tell her to release the SNAP contingency funds. Also, please continue to reach out to Senators Collins and King. And, you know, Representative Pingree was on the call, so she's heard from all of you, but you can reach out to her as well. And Representative Golden, just keep sharing your stories, your concerns, your questions. Thank them for the action they're taking, and urge them to continue to push USDA and to continue to work to reopen the government. Also, you know, we've had some of our wonderful state policymakers on this call, but please continue to reach out to your state legislators or start reaching out to them to share what you're hearing and seeing and experiencing in your communities, and ask them questions, and contact Governor Mills. We need everybody back in Augusta, and we need a plan from the state, in addition to the funds that have been allocated for emergency response. And then please, again, share your stories in our story collection form. Subscribe to our Ending Hunger in Maine newsletter for updates and opportunities to take action. And then finally, if this shutdown continues, let's start a social media campaign. So we have an idea of, this is not our idea, this is other people's idea, of taking a picture of an empty plate or an empty grocery bag, tagging Secretary Rollins, and you know, do that every day, do that every meal, put it on social media. We need to keep the pressure on. So those are our calls to action. Please reach out with anything else that you're hearing, thinking about, questions you have, and we will continue to lift those up and amplify. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate your time, and take good care. Thank you.